if we do talk to these Cardano guys, they're not going to drain our treasury. They're not going to run away. It's a secure thing. It's better than these other chains for this, that, X, Y, and Z.
Doing business in Cardano in 2024, because it is different than doing business in Cardano in 2018, 2019, 2020, when I was doing business in Cardano. I mean, I'm still doing business in Cardano, but I'm doing my own business. I'm talking about doing business for the big three. So tell me how it's received, right? You go to a bank, for example, you talk to them about utilizing the technology. You go to like a big conglomerate, right? You go to a government. I mean, how is it perceived? What does the conversation sound like right now? Are they resistant? If they are, what are they resistant to? What are the questions that are being asked? I mean, talk about that a little bit.
Well, yeah. So it's actually interesting that right now, like some of the companies that I talk to, or even like some of the governments, right? They will look at the various like solutions that blockchain can provide to kind of fill in the gaps of the problems that they have in their own business or their own sector of the economy, this or that. But interestingly enough, like the thing that kind of stops them, that kind of gets them a little bit more hesitant, is they want to make sure that if they do make any particular choice, be it the technology or the blockchain, they're going to be able to defend that from their colleagues, right? Like there are some companies that are committed. They want to do something in blockchain, but they don't know which chain to do it with. And so they've all got a bit of like hesitation. You've got like too many choices. And so, yeah, it's interesting that some of these guys, they want to be able to get additional details to then kind of be able to move up the chain and show to the president of the company that, like, look, if we do talk to these Cardano guys, they're not going to drain our treasury. They're not going to run away. It's a secure thing. It's better than these other chains for this, that, X, Y, and Z. And so like that is one thing. But interestingly enough, like a lot of these guys, like they understand that the hesitation is going to be coming internally, right? Like tech teams are a little bit slow, right? Banks are not known to be the most innovative places. And you might have the board be like, yes, let's get ahead of this and start moving on it. But everybody else down that organization chart is going to be second guessing, right? They drag their feet. It's the same thing with governments, right? Like you could sign a great partnership deal, but is it going to like be tangible? Is this going to turn into something real? You've got to make sure everybody else down that whole hierarchy, that whole chart, is also kind of on the same like wavelength. And that's not always the case. So these things take some time. Humans are complicated and human organizations are incredibly complicated. So you can't just like sign on a dotted line and expect that, all right, the business is done. Let's go. Deploying tomorrow.
That's an understatement. And again, I've been through it, and it makes great, headlines, and it makes great tweets. And back in the day, used to pump prices, but now it's like, one of the promises that we've made as a company to to our community is that we don't do bullshit partnerships.
Yeah.
Our partnerships actually do stuff. And we've been approached by just, partnerships, like announcement level partnerships. And in fact, I was approached one time by somebody who was actually selling announcements of partnerships.
Yeah, that's
But
the thing.
literally,
That's the thing.
I was at one of these events in this one part of the world I'm not going to talk about, so that's not too specific, but and I got approached by a person, by them, I'm not going to be gender specific. That was, they're saying, well, we have a service that can basically get you a partnership with, like, say, IBM. Like IBM, like why? What for? What? Oh, it's not really a partnership, but just an announcement that there's a partnership with IBM. Like, how does that work? Well, you pay us money, and then we'll kind of there's some. I still didn't understand how they're going to get that done, but there was some weird ass just scammy way that they were going to make it sound like you have a partnership with that, and it's literally like, so. And then what? And then your token pumps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what? Yeah, yeah. No, it's going to cost $100,000 if you want to do a partnership with IBM. And then, yeah, but the partnership doesn't do anything. No.
No.
Okay. And so then what happens? Yeah, I mean, they're not gonna verify it, but you can put an announcement out, and you can numbers go up. and
Yeah.
and that's
It's
why and that's
ridiculous.
why it's difficult. It is difficult to do business in this ecosystem because of bullshit like this. It's
Yeah.
just so, and this is not our ecosystem. This is like just in general,
It's all of it.
just
The
when you're
wider.
out there, it's all of it. And in fact, it's
Yeah.
more it's a lot more dominant in like the EVM and the ETH ecosystems, and in like the ones that are not boring and nerdy and ghost chainy like us, right? The hip guy, the hip cats, right? The we're not the squares like us, man. The cool guys, man. The jocks, and the jocks of the blockchain. Those guys. Like, that's where it happens. And I'm just like, what is this bullshit? Like, what do you mean announce a partnership with IBM? What?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because yeah, these guys, they're not looking to build long-term security and stability, right? And so for them, it's a bit of a race. It's a race to an announcement that can get that additional pump. 'Cause it's just like a different kind of mindset, right?
It's very unfortunate.
Absolutely a
It,
race,
it
not
is.
a marathon.
So okay, so here's my next question. I mean, how do we get how we and I okay. So I'm not going to be too general with the question here, okay? The first the intro to the question is, how do we get them to take us more seriously?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, more specifically, right? What is our lowest hanging fruit for entry into the mainstream, right? For our entry into mass adoption with Cardano technology, realistically, right? Realistically, from what you've seen out there,
Hmm.
what is the one where it's like, it's ready, it's prime. We can just push it over the line, and then we can get adoption here. What is that one or couple of things that really does do make separate us from the rest and really make people want to do business with us long term? Not bullshit partnership announcements, but like actually do stuff with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I would say what I'm seeing, like in my own conversations, people are very intrigued by our community, like the length, the breadth, and the depth of the community. The fact that we've got kind of like some, I would dare say, kind of like regional specialties, right? Where we've got like a bit of a deeper understanding of some of the needs and requirements in, say, Southeast Asia or Africa, and increasingly like Latin America. So there's like a regional component to it. Um, but also like I gotta say, like you like going back to what I was mentioning before, like where you've got internal resistance in some companies to these things, you've got to find, as you were saying, like the low hanging fruit in a particular organization. It might be a larger organization. So, for example, kind of like talking about something that is applicable for Emergo, we've signed a partnership with Huawei. Not everybody loved that. Certainly, I know a lot of Americans have some pretty understandable concerns about that partnership. But that whole
Why?
angle was to partner up with their cloud services. So you're not working with the head honcho to spy on Americans or anything like that. You're looking to offer them a bit of exposure to this technology and theoretically also offer Cardano projects the opportunity to maybe have their services be housed on a Huawei cloud. They also have a whole incubation program. They've got a whole VC arm. So they actually are very interested in investing in Cardano projects. And so that was a nice vertical, which was just low hanging fruit. Let's have these conversations. And generally, like thinking about, it's maybe not mainstream tomorrow, but once again, like low hanging fruits that will hopefully tangibly get us there mainstream. It's education, right? Like you gotta like be willing to just take some stupid questions, right? Be able to walk into some rooms where like people don't know
Yeah, I,
ups or
I,
downs.
I
They want to know how you can turn the blockchain off. And a Tesla mechanic and an Audi or BMW mechanic, they're not going to be the same, right? These are different types of cars. They've got different types of things. And so it's something similar we got to maybe think about as an analogy here. And for whatever reason, we're also under the impression that if we're going with the same analogy, right, that businesses are going to want to start to adopt blockchain, they don't necessarily need to have their own individual mechanic in their garage, right? Because you just don't have enough. mechanics in the world, but similar to the reality of the world we live in for most other things, you only need a few technical people to kind of really kind of make sure things are running, or if something breaks, they can kind of jump on it. And I say this because, like, when we look ahead to like ETFs, right? People are getting exposure to blockchain, but they're not really getting in the weeds of it. And it'll be the same thing with other like mass adoption. If we're going on the mainstream, there we go, mainstream, it won't be that we have like massive dedicated huge crypto teams in each and every single company. I think that'll be a bit too much of a stretch. Instead, we'll have a few dedicated individuals who will know who to talk to, and they'll have like a whole kind of like outreach. There'll be a whole other third company that'll be able to assist them on that. Now, I hope that maybe Emergo and some of these other companies can assist on that, because a lot of the solutions are going to be ecosystem solutions. Um, but some of the low hanging fruits here is maybe wallets, right? I think for companies to kind of first like dip their toes and stuff, maybe have a white label wallet, give them a wallet solution to play around with how things actually work, right? They don't need to know every single little thing on how the blockchain works. Start with like the small bites that can be digested.